Hello and welcome to another edition of Brazil This Week, hosted by the Brazilian Report. This week we're talking about the Brazilian tax reform process and potentially a D-Day for Brazilian tax reform. So welcome one and all, my name is Euan Marshall, I'm Deputy Editor of the Brazilian Report, and to discuss the Brazilian tax reform, I'm here with our Brasília correspondent, Cedê Silva. Cedê, how are we doing?
Great, Euan, thank you for having me.
And so yeah, just to get started, to get straight into this, we have Brazil's process for tax reform is currently, we've had the bill submitted to the lower house of Congress. Cedê, are we going to get a vote today? Is that what's on the cards? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, so in America, they have this toy called the Magic 8 Ball, which is a ball that you shake and predicts the future. And one of them famously says, all signs point to yes. So my answer is all signs point to yes. The House has been discussing the new tax reform proposal today on the floor since 11 a.m. And all signs indicate that we are going to start a voting process around 6 p.m. Brazil local time today.
And so just give us a little bit of a rundown then, the broad strokes. What is in this proposal? What are the major changes for tax rules for society as a whole?
Okay, so I'll highlight two major changes since this is a large constitutional amendment with lots of provisions. But one of them, the key is simplifying the tax system. Brazil has a very complicated tax system, and companies need to spend a lot of time, a lot of hours per year, a lot of people hours per year with tax codes and with paying their taxes and figure out how much taxes they need to pay. And this proposal, if approved, is going to simplify all of that. It's going to unify different taxes that we have into new taxes. So we'll have less different tax codes than we have today. And the second thing is this system is going to unify tax quotes or tax levies in each state. So currently, for example, in a state like São Paulo, where you live, there are different tax rates for different products. So, for example, the tax rate for a given chocolate can be a rate, and the tax for other candy can be a different rate. The tax for a motorbike or the parts of the motorbike can be different from each other, and so on. And the governors and the state governments have a lot of power in increasing or decreasing the tax rates for each product. In this reform proposal, all products will have the same rates in each state. So if the state tax rate in São Paulo is X, it's X for every basic product, which is important not only because of simplification for people to figure out taxes and companies to figure out how much tax they pay, etc., but also because it corrects any distortions in the economy due to different taxes. A very famous example in Brazil here is with bonbons. Bonbons are chocolate candy, which are very popular in Brazil. They're popular in movie theaters. You can buy them in grocery stores. And what happened a few years ago is that some very famous Brazilian candy changed their formula from bonbons to wafers, and they do not taste as good. They're really crappy. The reason that the companies did this with big flagship bonbon names, which have decades of tradition in Brazil, is because the tax rates for wafers is lower than the tax rate for bonbons. So this creates distortions because companies, because of the different tax rates, they're doing economic activities different than the ones they would do if the tax were the same for all products in each state.
Yeah, so a truly kind of bittersweet knock-on to Brazil's tax reform problems. And yeah, so just from that couple of minutes, I think you've really already explained most of the problem is that we have, different levels. We've got federal levels, we've got the municipal and state levels. And so for us to to bring all of that together with all these different rules, with all these different rates, reforming that surely can't be easy because we have so many stakeholders involved. We don't just have the federal government, we have states, we have municipal governments, we also have these economic sectors, and we have the society as a whole. So how has that been, how's that equation been kind of figured out so far? Who's coming out on top?
So this week we had a last-ditch attempt by the governors of the south and southeastern states in Brazil, where most of Brazilians live, and which are also the states with the largest GDP. And these governors, they expressed opposition to one of the clauses in this proposed reform, is the creation of a federative council, which currently does not exist. And this council would be responsible for regulating on an infra-legal level how the taxes revenues are going to be distributed. Because the way that the tax reform system works in Brazil is that federal taxes, the federal revenue from federal taxes can also go, not only can, but must also part of it go to states and to city halls. And the same thing with the state revenues and the city revenues and so on. So the taxes that are charged at the different levels, the revenue actually circulates to the different governments. So state level tax, it's not 100% of the revenue that goes to the state government and the governor. It's all interlinked. These governors, they expressed a problem with the Federative Council as proposed, because in this proposal, as presented by Congressman Aguinaldo Ribeiro, all states in Brazil would have one vote, which means that the poorer states, the northern and northeastern states, would easily have a majority on this council, to the detriment of the smaller number of states with more wealth and more people. So the governors are asking for a more balanced approach, where population and or GDP would also play a role in having more votes, similar to the ones you have at the World Bank, IMF, etc., where it's not one country, one vote. So they do not want one state, one vote. The other thing is, governors, even if this is implemented, they're going to lose a very important tool that they currently have in Brazil, which we call the fiscal war. Under the current system, the governors, as I said, and the state governments, they have liberty to reduce the tax rates for different products and different services, and they sometimes will do these to attract foreign investments. For example, there's an automaker that wants to bring a factory to Brazil. They can choose among Brazil's different states and regions. And some governors will say, well, in my state, the tax rate is lower, so you should install that factory in my state. And the other governor is going to bid less, and so on and so forth. The governors are going to lose these under the new system, because they will now have to charge the same rate for all economic activities. And in Brazil, and this is also important, because in Brazil, politics is always very linked with corruption. And when you remove the power of an authority or an official to do something, you also remove their power to demand bribes in order to do or not to do that thing. This is also one of the reasons that has led some people to support the reform, because of the uniform tax rate that must be charged. You asked about someone who's going to lose. So former President Jair Bolsonaro was caught on a video that was published this week, because there was a meeting of the Liberal Party here in Brasília, where the governor of São Paulo and other allies and other lawmakers in Bolsonaro's party, some of them did not want to give the Lula administration a win. So even though this reform specifically was not originally proposed by the Lula administration, but this discussion has been going on for several years, the intellectual mentor of this reform, which is economist Bernardo Api, he now works for the Lula administration. And so any major economic reform that passes can be seen as a win for Lula. And there are many people that do not want that, especially on the far right.
No, yeah, perfect. And so just before we kind of delve into the kind of the politics side of this, Cedê, I just want to take a quick break to remind our viewers, our listeners, our readers that Brazil This Week, these videos and several other videos are all hosted and powered by the Brazilian Report, the journalistic engine which is behind these videos, and our Explaining Brazil podcast, and of course, all of our reporting on Brazil and Latin America. And it's a subscriber-only website, and so we do rely on your support to keep us going, keep us independent. So please do check out Brazilian.report/subscribe here on the bottom of your screen. we've got lots of different membership plans and options, so there's definitely going to be something that fits your budget there. And also, if you already subscribe and you want to maybe support us a little bit more, or if you're looking for a different way to kind of support us, we also have a page on Buy Me a Coffee, which allows you to donate to our journalists, because our journalism obviously requires a whole lot of caffeine. We're up at all hours covering the corridors of power in Brasília and beyond. And so as Cedê needs someone to fill that mug, and that's where your donations come in. So please do check out buymeacoffee.com/Brazilian Report. You can either donate, as much as you like, or you can join our Buy Me a Coffee membership, which is a commitment to donate a certain amount of coffees per month. And for that, you get a bunch of perks like extra newsletters and kind of behind the scenes stuff, and exclusive podcasts. We're potentially kind of rolling that out soon. And so let's just get back to this discussion then, Cedê, before we wrap this up, because the Congress is planning a vote pretty soon. We've heard some criticism, and you kind of touched on it there, that the federal government, the Lula government, is maybe not quite putting in the hours that it needs to kind of approve this reform. And I remember that at the start of the Bolsonaro government, the big reform on the table was the Social Security reform, and there was a lot of criticism of the government suggesting that they're not really trying that hard to approve it. How's that working? What's going on there? And is that criticism of the Lula government justified in this case?
Well, I'm never shy of criticizing the Lula administration, but I would say that this is not true. Lula himself is not actually using his public face to defend reform. That is true, and he said this Thursday, he said today, that this is not the perfect reform. This is not the reform that the Lula administration would want. So he doesn't seem very enthusiastic. But you do have the Lula administration, first of all, liberating all this earmark money, all this amendments money to the lawmakers. So they are using the renewed version of the so-called secret budget to convince lawmakers to vote in favor. They have managed to get a very large quorum yesterday in Brasília. And this quorum also rejected a motion to remove the reform from the agenda. So they are defending the fact that we should discuss this now and take this to a vote soon. And they are definitely in conversations with House Speaker Arthur Lira, who owns the gavel in the House, and without whom this would not be a debate. This would not even be in the floor. So I understand that, yes, the Lula administration is doing an effort to get this proposal done. And you've got Secretary Bernardo Api, who is the intellectual mentor of this reform. He's being engaging in public debates, being quoted, defending the reform and defending the opposition. He's been recently quoted in Estadão newspaper against some points raised by São Paulo Governor Tarcísio de Freitas, and why these proposals, these counter proposals by Mr. Freitas would not work. So I would say that, yes, the Lula administration is really making a campaign to get this reform approved, which is going to take a larger threshold of votes than another important reform that they also want to vote, which is the fiscal framework, which we'll perhaps debate some other time.
Yeah, true. And if you want to learn more about the fiscal framework and obviously, of course, this tax reform process and anything else to do with Brazilian politics, definitely check out Brazilian.report, because we've been doing a lot of work on it recently. And just to finish this off, Cedê, because I think we often, with these major structural reforms, we often do get a bit bogged down as journalists about like the politicking side of it, the approval and the rejection and all of these different interests involved. If we just maybe take a quick step back and have a look at the proposal, how is it shaping up? As in, how does it shape up for society? Like for your average Brazilian, are they going to be better off with this tax reform? Do you think?
Well, there are very different calculations when you fiddle up with such a large arcane tax system. But what I have seen from people that study taxes, they are in favor. They are in favor of this proposal because it's going to simplify things, and it's going to help Brazilians know how much they will pay in taxes. And once again, because the tax rates, if the reform is approved, are going to be basically unified with a few exceptions across each state and across each city, this is going to help people that are entrepreneurs, people that want to start a business, people that want to hire other people and want to start a business. They will not take into account anymore that the tax rate is different. They're not going to ask what business is cheaper to do because of taxes. Instead, they're going to ask what do customers need, what is the need in this region, and what is going to be profitable, not because artificially some sectors have lower rates than others, but because of what the real economic scenario is. And I think this is going to be huge because it's not about navigating the tax system anymore, and it's going to be about the economic reality itself.
Okay, excellent, Cedê. Thanks a lot for joining us. We will definitely be in tomorrow's daily newsletter for our premium customers on Brazilian Report. We will definitely have all this information about what happened with the vote, because Congress is about to hold the sitting where they are expected to vote. As Cedê says, all signs point to yes. And if they do push this through in 2 rounds, we're expecting a session that will run all the way into the wee hours of tomorrow morning. So definitely check out that daily newsletter tomorrow if you're a premium subscriber. And if you're not a premium subscriber, why aren't you? You can definitely check out Brazilian.report/subscribe, and you can check out how much a premium subscription costs there, see if it's the right membership package for your budget, and to get access to all of our reporting on Brazil and Latin America. Cedê, thanks a lot for joining us again. As I said, we will continue to cover the tax reform process as it goes through, if not, and thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you all again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.